Welcome to Inventiveminds Child, Youth, and Family Support Center. We are a not-for-profit organization working with families in their day-to-day parenting by providing workshops and seminars related to pediatric and child development. Inventiveminds provides care in the early years sectors for newborn to age 6, licensed under the Ministry of Education all across Ontario. Inventiveminds carries an elementary school open to international students from junior kindergarten to grade 3. The Inventiveminds Family Center helps families in mediation, arbitration, and parent coordination cases related to family separation and divorce. We support families during and past separation and divorce. Inventiveminds works with court orders to conduct child voice report and parenting courses related to CAS, court, and mediation purposes. To learn more about our services, reach us at inventivekids.com. My name is Rose, the founder of Inventiveminds Family Center. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rose, and I am here from Inventiveminds Kids Academy. We have a special guest with us, Mrs. Suzanne Wiseman, who's going to take some time and explain to us her educational background and discuss understanding and healing childhood trauma. This podcast will be available on Spotify and on Inventiveminds Kids Academy website and on our social media sites as well. So before I move forward, I'm just going to give Mrs. Wiseman an opportunity to tell us a little bit about her experience.
Well, thank you so much, Rose. Thanks for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share about neurofeedback myself and to learn from you as well. I'm a trauma-informed registered psychotherapist. I also have a teaching background for teaching primary, junior, and intermediate with special education. And I look at my clients of all ages through a lens of trauma, which essentially is what has happened to you that's led you to where you are now, as opposed to what's wrong with you. Of course, one of the modalities that I do use is neurofeedback. So I'm excited to share about that. And I'm happy to learn your approach from you, Rose, and go from there.
Everything's really about collaboration. When we say we work as a community and everyone has a special skill they can bring to the floor and there's no one solution, sometimes even us as professionals, we look at what can we do best for our families and to make sure that they can thrive in the best solution possible. And that's where I came to understand about neurofeedback and the benefits that it can have, especially myself as well. I've done somatic therapy, attachment, trauma, working with families as a mediator, parent coordinator, educator, also working with children with ADD, ADHD, autism, has sort of given me that feedback of continue learning. And I think one thing about neuroscience is that science is always changing. And there's always new approaches. Learning from one another becomes to be very imperative to create that safe space for that individual family, for that situation, special trauma that they've gone through. So I'll leave the floor to you to ask me some questions, and I'll do the same back if that's okay.
Okay, thanks, Rose. And I just wanted to go back to what you said about there's no one solution that is going to help everyone. There's no one specific form of trauma also. So that's why it leads into my question about what is childhood trauma? What are things that you see?
Trauma is a term listed to describe the impact of early repeated trauma and loss, which can happen as early as early development or in different areas of our lives. Could be through a divorce, a loss of a loved one. Trauma normally starts in the development terms in early years from 0 to 16 months with the type of attachment that we are exposed to as children, the primary caregivers, really.
What are some of the different types of traumas that you see in the children that come to you or the families that come to you?
Some of the childhood traumas can be poverty, physical abuse, could be emotional abuse. It can be the parenting styles, generational parenting. It could be trauma from war, immigration. There are different types of traumas that children can go through.
And what are some signs of trauma in children, adolescents, and teens? How does it show up for you?
So I would divide it in 4 different areas: how the body reacts, how the brain thinks, emotions, and behavior. Some of the body indication is the inability to control physical responses to stress, having lots of chronic illnesses. Even into the adulthood, it can actually bring heart disease and obesity. When you look at trauma in a brain thinking process, difficulty thinking, learning, concentrating, impaired memory, lost track of time, blockage of memory, difficulty switching from one thought to another. When you think about emotions, I've actually even seen children drawing pictures without a face, without an eye, nose, and mouth. That is a sign that you want to say something, but you don't even know how to say it or how to express it. Usually you see that in children that are around 8, 9, 10 years old. Could be signs of being shy, gone through early traumas, signs of sexual abuse, feeling unsafe, inability to regulate emotion, difficulty forming attachment to their primary caregivers. That secure attachment keeps on coming up. Having difficulty building friendship can cause depression and anxiety. When it hits to more the adolescence and teen, we can see it more in self-harming, more in an anxiety, OCD, bigger aggression. I don't like to call it aggression. I said big feelings, which some people call a lack of impulse, which I called it supporting them with emotions, how to regulate my feelings, how to come up with the tools that I need to move forward. And I think that's where we're coming as professionals, looking at the areas of the trauma by looking at past, history, present, and future, and past and present, and see what we can do to move forward.
Well, I wanted to add on for adolescents and teens, that's also a time where they will be skipping school. Normally, your friends become so much more important in your teenage years. School is something that misses out oftentimes.
Because of that lack of friendship, there's that bullying in the school. And then if it's not being addressed, it can become very much where you want to keep to yourself because you don't know how to connect and communicate and build that relationship. And that goes back to early parenting, what kind of a parenting attachment you had or the style you had. And that can affect directly when a child hits their preteen all the way through to age 22.
Yes, it is also part of how worthy we feel. How does divorce or separation or family breakup, how does it affect a child's brain when it's happening? What suggestions do you have for parents to do?
I always say, you know what, it's the same thing that is happening to you. That same feeling of anger, loss, confusion, and anxiety, all of that also becomes to be the children's feeling. They don't know how to show these big feelings. So these big feelings come out as big emotions. Where families are going through separation and divorce, you recognize that adult conversation should not take place in front of the children. Adults should not bring the kids into the conversation. Adults should not have the children to be the passengers of the messages from one parent to another, or compare one parent to another. I even ask one parent, the child, do you like me more or your other parent more? I think is really realizing the damages that it can cause. That's one of the things I love about the new law is child's voice. Yes. So they want to incorporate children's feeling when it comes to separation and divorce, whether it is through child voice reports or whether it is through family assessment. But you can even have a closed family mediation with a child voice involved, where there is no litigation, there is no form of he said, she said, where the child feels more safe having an input in what they want. A lot of times, with the parenting schedule, they're not even looking at the age of the child, the need of the child, the distance of the child from the home to the school, the hours of traveling. What's going to happen to the child when they get home? Are they going to have enough nap? Are they going to be able to get up the next day in the morning? Are you changing their schedule? Your schedule has changed too. Theirs has changed even more. Maybe you guys are traveling between 2 hours. There's a lot more to look at than just to look at it as a perspective of it. It's my child. I'm the parent. I make the decision. Maybe I'm a 12-year-old who has a special activity on Wednesday nights, and I want to do this activity. So I'm going to go to this activity. I don't need to be with this parent or that parent. That's my day.
That activity is also a stability, that no matter where you are, these are things that you can count on. There's no transition back and forth. It's just when I go to my basketball game on Wednesdays or my practice, I know exactly what to expect and I know who's going to be there.
Exactly.
That's a great example. How could somatic therapy help these children work through these issues that keep going sometimes?
Somatic therapy is mostly recommended for starting from adolescents and teen and older. It's not something that is recommended for younger children. It takes the child to a certain stage of their development, and they find out, they would go back to a question like, how was it for you when you were 5? Who did you find taking care of you when you were, let's say, sick? Can you give me a memory of that? It takes them back and teaches them how to build that attachment and bring it to present. And then they go through emotional healing, physical healing. The somatic therapy attachment is recommended to be done by CBT. There's a process with it. Normally, it is recommended to do 6 sessions and not alone. You also want to heal the individual to move from that state and to come up with a solution and to be able to move forward. Anything else you want to add to that?
It's similar, I would say, to EMDR. The somatic therapy, it helps them process. They both focus more on the feeling and connections. And then you mentioned the CBT, which is more the cognitive. So I'd love for you to elaborate more on how cognitive behavioral therapy helps with them.
Not only cognitive behavioral therapy helps with children that have trauma or adults that have gone through trauma or divorce, it also helps children with ADD or ADHD, because it helps them learn how to regulate emotion rather than react. It gives them that time to process. It's really different per situation. It's like finding what are those feelings of the iceberg. Am I feeling that high emotion where I'm acting with my big emotion? Something as simple as playing with my nails, playing with my eyes, or moving too much. And as professional art help the individual, the adolescents and teen, to realize, this feeling that I'm feeling inside my stomach, twist and the turn, it's actually called being anxious. That's why I'm an hour early. That's why I'm reacting with a scream to my parents, because I just don't want to miss that activity. It could be my first time going to a dentist and I'm an adolescent and I am feeling afraid. I don't know what to name it. And now I'm reacting by screaming. It's very different when it comes to adolescents and teen and dealing with it. But that's where neurofeedback comes in. And that's where I'm going to take you now.
I'm ready.
So can you tell me, what is neurofeedback?
Great question. So neurofeedback is a non-invasive approach to help train your brain to work at its best. It gives real-time feedback. It reads your cortical or electrical activity through your central nervous system. And then it helps the individual to regulate their emotions, to become more flexible, be more resilient. There are so many benefits of neurofeedback. The system that I use is called neurooptimal neurofeedback. It provides real-time feedback and it helps the brain self-correct. No one's brain is born traumatized or stressed or depressed or anything, even though it can be impacted in utero. Or our brains get hijacked through life, through trauma, through illnesses, through different events, through injury, certainly through divorce as well. And it gets hijacked and it gets stuck. It's not open to learning new ways. Maybe the child is fidgeting, or so the neurooptimal neurofeedback lets you know what's happening with your brain, and your brain has a natural ability to learn new ways or to heal itself. That's neuroplasticity.
What examples do you have from people that have used neurofeedback?
One of the first little boys, when I first started, he was about 4 or 5 years old. And of course, he was adorable. And his mom brought him because he was not speaking much. English was a second language for him, but he was also not speaking in his native language. And he was wetting the bed a lot. After probably about 3 or 4 sessions, he would come into the office and he would be singing and he would be trying to tell me a story. And there were words that I could understand and that his mom could understand. And after a few more sessions, he stopped wetting the bed. And right now, I have someone that's doing neurofeedback with me, and it's a young girl, and mom reports that she seems a lot more relaxed and she listens much better to her parents. And mom says, and by listening, she means she listens to understand, not just to hear me talk. It's not a fight to get her to settle in to go to bed. And then I have my son, when he was in second year university and he was having lots of ups and downs, and maybe he was 19, but he was cool. He wasn't trying neurofeedback, got to a point where he did. It changed his life. He's no longer anxious. He's more confident. I'm not a nag because he started to get himself out of bed. So that was so great for both of us. Neurofeedback just really helps regulate your emotions so they're not so big. Individuals feel more flexible, more confident, and more resilient.
Thank you for sharing with us a personal story. And I know we all have our own personal stories. And sometimes those stories is what drives us to do what we do because we want to help our community. How do you find neurofeedback helping children with ADD, ADHD?
In the States, neurofeedback is considered the number one treatment or modality for ADHD because it helps with focus and attention and it helps with stress. When I say it helps you feel more flexible and resilient, it means that when the teacher is talking, you're flexible enough where you can focus enough or you can pay attention long enough to understand what the lesson is. Also because it helps make our emotions less big. If a child with ADHD or a learning disability has having difficulty understanding or expressing, they're able to take a step back and say, this is difficult for me. I can ask my teacher, a friend, I can ask my parent instead of acting out in class because I don't know what I'm doing, so I just can't do it, so I give up. It makes a big difference as well for playing. So often children with ADHD have difficulty playing in team sports or taking turns, not being the first person that's chosen. That's really hurtful. It's hurtful as a child and it's hurtful as a parent and a teacher to see that happen. When we're more calm, we can be like, I know I'm going to get picked. I know I'm a good person on this team. I can take turns. Their social network opens up too. They have friends. They feel less isolated, or maybe they don't feel isolated at all. And they can have that sense of accomplishment because they're able to sit and do their work. They can join in the different activities. And the best thing, which I didn't mention before about neurofeedback, especially for children, it doesn't have side effects. It actually corrects how your neural pathways are working. It's helping to create new ones. It's not a child with ADHD that's getting up every morning and taking their medication. You can sit focused at school and then the bell rings and you go home and you have all this energy, or you have to take different medications. The neurofeedback actually helps correct how your brain works. It's teaching it how to work at its best.
So when we're talking about ADHD in children, you talked about the benefits that it has, that it actually helps rewire the brain and the synapses, and it helps the child to have a higher attention span rather than taking a medication. As with your system, it's not EEG, it's neurofeedback. So you're dealing with the situation immediately and you're seeing immediate responses with it as a result. I know we've gone past our time, and is there something specific that you feel is important that you want to address?
One of the ways that I incorporate neurofeedback into my practice is that if someone has experienced trauma, child, parent, or whomever, with the neurofeedback, there's no talking involved. The individual doesn't have to relive a situation that chances are they didn't want to be in the very first place. So if it's a child from a divorced family and with parents arguing, they don't want to share that with you because that was difficult for them in the first place. You do the neurofeedback, there's no talking, it's beneficial for everybody. It actually corrects how your brain is working. But also what I use, if they're doing therapy and we combine the neurofeedback, it helps to increase a window of tolerance. So that means whether it's with somatic therapy or CBT or EMDR, that they can visit it, they can elaborate on it. And it's so wonderful and so humbling to see individuals grow and be more comfortable in their true selves.
And that makes it perfect for today because that's what Suzanne and I do. We collaborate together. Inventiveminds works with Suzanne when it comes to neurofeedback, and we can help you in enriching your children and doing what is best for your family's interest, with the understanding that you are the parent, you are the one who's making the best decision that is possible for your child, especially even if you're going through family separation, divorce, decision-making factor comes in. If a consultation is necessary from both of us to receive in order to see if this is a method you want to use in your family, please feel free to reach out to us and we will be more than happy to help and assist you in this process. I hope that today's presentation was helpful and you were able to take some couple of tips and add it into your parent toolbox. Thank you, Suzanne. It was a great pleasure. I look forward to our multiple workshops in different topics.
Thank you so much again for letting me join in, and I'm looking forward to more collaboration.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you for joining this Inventiveminds Child, Youth, and Family Support Center workshop. Do visit www.inventivekids.com, kids with a Z, to learn more about the many other workshops available coming up soon. You can connect with Inventiveminds via email at inventivekids, again with a Z, at gmail.com for any parenting challenges so their professional team can connect with you. Check out a replay of this and many of our other podcasts by searching Inventive Kids on YouTube and the Parent Toolbox on Spotify. And join the Parent Toolbox Facebook community group today by searching the Parent Toolbox on Facebook. And we look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon.